What's up, everybody? My name is Tony Hope, and you're listening to the Hear Me Roar podcast, a sports show where I run my mouth about all things sports. And today, I am back with my co-host Noble Lewis, and we are presenting y'all with another iteration of the Hear Me Roar podcast. And if you're not familiar with my voice, you better get used to it because I am the future of sports media. It is April 9th, about to be April 10th when this episode drops. We have a lot to talk about from this past weekend in the sports world. We have WrestleMania 40, night 1 and night 2 that took place. What an amazing event. Both days were very fun to watch, especially night 2. We're going to dive into that. The men's and women's national championships have been decided, with UConn repeating as champs in the men's division and South Carolina defeating Iowa to become the women's national champions. A whole lot of pitching injuries in the MLB. Noble and I will be going into why that is happening and how can it be possibly be fixed, if it can be fixed at all. The Basketball Hall of Fame class for 2024, who made the cut? Should they rehaul the criteria needed to make the Hall of Fame class? Should there be an NBA Hall of Fame rather than just a Basketball Hall of Fame? We'll get into that as well. And then finally, what are the damn Cowboys expecting to achieve next year? Derrick Henry came out and said that the Cowboys, not once did they even reach out to him to talk about a contract signing. And in fact, the Cowboys have regressed and had one of the worst off seasons of any team this year. So what are they expecting to do this season or next year? We're going to get into that. Before we get started, of course, like, comment, subscribe on YouTube, share it with your people. We enjoy seeing the feedback that we get on our social medias and in our comment section. Continue to interact with us. You see our socials on the screen. On Apple Podcasts, on Spotify Podcasts, subscribe, follow, share it, listen, give us feedback. What do you like us to say more of? What would you like us to speak on more? What would you like to see less of? Give us your opinions and thoughts. We would love to hear it. So without any further ado, let's get right into this episode. So, WrestleMania 40. Take these AirPods out. WrestleMania 40. It was a weekend to remember. It was touted as one of the biggest WrestleManias of all time. They 100% followed through on that, with the attendance record, or the attendance for both nights was in the 75,000 attendees range, which is just incredible. It was at Lincoln Field up in Philadelphia. It was touted as one of the biggest. It was touted to be one of the greatest. And I believe so. I believe that it will live on very favorably in the years to come. I had a lot of fun watching it. Night 1, it was solid. It started off kind of slow. It ended strong. There was a couple of good matches, but night 2 in its totality was just absolutely legendary material, legendary stuff. We're gonna get into matter of fact, let's just do it now. The biggest match of the entire weekend was the culmination of the story between Cody Rhodes and the Bloodline. It was on night 2, the main event. I have been looking forward to that match for so long. And it was really the culmination of not just Cody Rhodes' story, not just Roman Reigns' 1,000 day plus reign, 3.5 years as WWE Undisputed Universal Champion. They looped in so many other storylines that have taken place over the past 10 plus years in the WWE. It was absolutely batshit crazy the last 15 minutes of that main event. I'm talking about, I was in the car watching it, and it just continued to get crazier and crazier and crazier. Once we started to reach that point where, Roman Reigns was whooping Cody Rhodes' ass. Let's just keep it 100. Roman Reigns was doing his ass up, and Cody Rhodes, he would mount some momentum, but every time he would get to his finisher, where he would hit the 3, he would try to do 3 of them to put Roman away. He would hit the first one, then he would get up, hit the second one, and every time after the second one, someone would come out and interfere. The first time it was Jimmy Uso. And then Jay Uso came out and he speared him off of the stage into a table. Then the match continues. Solo Sikoa comes out and disrupts Cody's finishing move again. This time, John fucking Cena ran out looking like an old man with that balding style on his head, running like that man has 2 replaced knees. He came out and, dude, when that music hit, I had flashbacks to fighting. I had flashbacks to old WrestleManias. I had flashbacks to a kid. I for real like audibly yelled in my car. I was so hyped for that moment. He came out and he put the hands on Solo. And for those who don't remember, last year Solo Sikoa put John Cena out into a retirement, so to speak. Solo Sikoa pretty much John Cena jobbed to Solo Sikoa. So him coming back and kind of getting retribution for how Solo did him, another long-term storytelling. And then The Rock came out and hit a rock bottom on John Cena. They had one last face-off. They had their rivalry that was a pinnacle of our childhood, 2012, 2013. That was like the first WrestleMania match that was booked a whole year in advance. And then The Undertaker came out and chokeslammed The Rock. Seth Rollins came out too in his Shield gear. It was just crazy. I love the long-term storytelling that was provided to us. It was chaotic. It was very reminiscent of the Attitude Era for those who either were a part of that time or went back and used to watch the matches. I still have a whole bunch of old Attitude Era DVDs that I still watch. It was very reminiscent of that, just chaotic. Destruction everywhere, carnage. Sometimes shit doesn't need to be explained. Just put all of these superstars into one ring, into one context, and it will provide entertainment. The crowd was going crazy night 2. Dude, every surprise entrant, every surprise theme music hits. It was absolutely crazy. I enjoyed that main event so much.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was so much fun. I felt like a kid again. It was just like you said, all the surprise entrances, Undertaker being the biggest surprise. Kind of already heard, you hear a couple things prior to it. I'm gonna be honest, I thought Stone Cold was gonna come out. That would have been the icing on the cake if they would have got Stone Cold out there. But alas, it was still a great, phenomenal show. Regardless, Cody and Roman just have outstanding chemistry in the ring. Like just the two of them, they're wrestling between the two. They're so both high level wrestlers, and so just the two of them were able to satisfy for a very long time. They're just both very high level wrestlers, and so you had that, and then like you said, all of the surprise entrances. Seth Rollins, there was a point where it was Seth and Cody, and Roman had a chair, and like you said, addressing 10-year-old storylines. We all know back when Seth betrayed Roman, he hit him in the back with the chair. Now, 10 years later, Roman has the chance to put Cody away or hit Seth, and he hits Seth with the chair, and it gives Cody an opportunity to get his crossroads off. So just like you said, everything coming together, a complete, just a very complete match, and then just the whole event. It started. Honestly, night 1, the crowd was kind of weak. I can't lie to you. Night 1, the crowd was kind of lacking until
I really think that was because of the conditions. Like it was open stadium. It was freezing cold outside from what the fans were saying. And if the videos that were taken in the actual stadium, God damn it, I'm blurry. The videos that were taken in the actual stadium, it looked as if they were live. They were piped.
Yeah, I've seen a couple in the inside that looked a little bit. I don't know if it was just the funneling of the sound, the way the stadium's built. I don't know what happened, but it just from a TV perspective, the crowd was kind of lackluster a little bit right night 1 until until the main event of night 1, the tag match between Seth and Cody and Roman and The Rock, which was very entertaining, by the way. All 4 men. Rock was in outstanding shape. He came, there was a couple question marks about how he would do first time wrestling in a long time, but he absolutely delivered. He's in outstanding shape. But it's just, like I said, it's the culmination of everything between Rhea versus Becky and Ray. The Ray match where Jason Kelsey and what's it called, Lane Johnson came out, and then bringing those Philly legends out in Philly, and just EO versus Bailey. Like it was all outstanding, phenomenal wrestling going on, and Triple H is cooking. Triple H is definitely cooking. WWE is cooking. Production, they changed production teams. The production team was outstanding. It was just all around a fantastic WrestleMania.
Yeah, I like that. I want to stick with that main event night too. Like that was just how they were able to intertwine everything. We looked at WrestleMania. These even number WrestleManias literally come every like 10 years. So it's not very often that we get to see it. Or when I say it's not often, the last one was WrestleMania 30. I was like in middle school when that shit happened. I was when Brock Lesnar broke Undertaker streak. That was the culmination of the Daniel Bryan Yes movement. So these are very big events. And if you go back to WrestleMania 20, with Eddie Guerrero finally winning his WWE championship and Chris Benoit beating Triple H and Shawn Michaels. So every 10 years, it always seems like these were the biggest, the most prize, the happiest storylines come to be. And that's what it felt. Cody Rhodes coming from or his whole WWE career was something that I watched. And to see where he's at now, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, I would have never, ever expected this. 10 years ago, he was Stardust. And he was very disgruntled. He did not like his position in the company. He did not like his gimmick as Stardust. He ended up leaving, quit, and he went out on his own into the indie circuit, the independents, and reinvented himself as a character, as a person, as a wrestler. Became the American Nightmare. He got that absolutely horrible placement of a tattoo on his neck. It's not a bad tat. It's just the placement is horrible. It's bad. It looks like some shit that I would have put on my created wrestler when I was a very little kid. But he reinvented himself. Came back to WWE as one of the already most anticipated baby faces. Fast forward a few more years, and he is the biggest baby face in the company, which is perfect with the old guard slowly moving out. John Cena isn't coming around as much anymore. Roman Reigns with him used to be a babyface. It didn't work. Now he's a full-time heel. Cody Rhodes is that marquee, marketable, absolutely blockbuster babyface that the company needs and that they can rely on, just like how they used to with John Cena for all those years. And before, I guess Stone Cold technically isn't a babyface, but Stone Cold, Hulk Hogan, and the like. I enjoyed seeing the aftermath of how it was. I almost shed a tear. I ain't gonna lie, because it was real. It was really, it was emotional. From like, man, it was draining to like watch. It was very emotional to watch because it seems like, oh my God, is this man really finna do it? I had an idea. I was like, I hope he does. I hope Cody Rhodes can finally win. But with them losing the night one main event in the tag team match, where now it's under bloodline rules, anything goes. I was like, man, if they keep this shit going, so Roman Reigns can beat Hulk Hogan's reign. I was for real scarred from hearing his theme music. I for real thought that he was gonna win. It was really.
I figured once.
Celebrating the ring with all of the other babyfaces in the company. LA Knight came out, CM Punk came out, Randy Orton and others to celebrate Cody Rhodes with his family in the ring. It was real nice. I'm not gonna lie, it was real nice.
Yeah, it was good to watch. I figured once, honestly, when they lost the first one, I kind of thought that the bloodline rules that was setting up for Cody to win night two. In my eyes, I just trusted Triple H's direction. I didn't think he was gonna go with the Roman streak. That just seemed like a bad angle to go with. I don't, like I said, he's kind of given at this point. He's given the benefit of the doubt to trust his creative vision because he's had phenomenal creative vision so far. So, especially with Raw after Mania, last night. Becky versus I'm sorry, not Becky, Rhea versus name will come to me soon, but that feud is going, and just all of it, Cody and The Rock last night on Raw after Mania having that little combo and things of that sort. So I did kind of, it seemed like it was stacking up for Cody to win the belt. It didn't look like in my eyes that he would go that direction, but like I said,
I think that's what makes the win even better because, that's just people. We don't watch wrestling for the damn, like, we know it's fake. It's storylines. So when you have someone, or when you have it to where it's like, oh, I don't know. It's like I hope so. I have a feeling, but I don't know. I genuinely didn't know what the hell was going to happen until literally the very end. That's when Roman Reigns hit Seth Rollins with the chair. That's when I was like, oh shit, Cody Rhodes really finna do it. Roman Reigns fucked up right there. That's where he messed up.
Yeah.
That's where he messed up. So man, like the Triple H regime right now, this is the first WrestleMania without Vince McMahon at charge. And after 40 years. But I think that this is ushering in a very, very, very great era. The standard is set high, and I think they're going to continue to follow because The Rock seems to be sticking around as far as working in ring. Roman Reigns, he posted a video saying that he mourned yesterday, but now it's day one. So he's still going to be around. I know it was speculation that he might walk away for a little bit and take a break. He's still going to be around. Another of the bigger stories was Seth Rollins losing his World Heavyweight Championship to Drew McIntyre. And then Drew McIntyre was talking all his shit to CM Punk. CM Punk got fed up, knocked his ass out. And then Damian Priest came in, cashed in his Money in the Bank contract at WrestleMania Night 2, pinned Drew McIntyre, and became the new World Heavyweight Championship. I love that move. That sets up so many other angles. And also, kudos to Seth Rollins. That man did so much work this weekend. It's ridiculous. Not just this weekend, but just he is the workhorse of the WWE. He is the one. If you want a good match out of anybody, you're going to Seth Rollins. A good promo on the mic, Seth Rollins can deliver. Someone who is unselfish, Seth Rollins. This man got beat on every single stage of WrestleMania. He lost the main event with his tag team partner, Cody Rhodes. He lost his World Heavyweight Championship. He got smacked in the back with a chair by Roman Reigns. He literally, he jobbed out to everyone else in order to make the show better. He was bigger. It was bigger than Seth Rollins wasn't bigger than the sum of the night, the sum of the rest of his parts. I really, really shout him out for that because that was really unselfish and giving to just the company, and it's very telling on the type of wrestler and the lack of ego that he has. Shout out to him for real. That was great.
Yeah, and especially his, like you said, he's a workhorse. His body was. I mean, I posted the joke in your comments about if it don't fall off the bone, it's free because he was at the end. I saw Cena and Orton. Somebody in Orton went to help him up, and he was struggling to even get off the ground at the end of the Cody.
I think he was selling that. I think he was selling that though.
You think that was a sell?
I
don't know. Yeah, I mean, well, yeah. I mean, but like you said, he's just the ego thing that was definitely phenomenal, and B, he is a workhorse. He was out there. I mean, in terms of wrestling minutes, actually in ring minutes. I mean, he probably led the weekend, didn't he? I mean, the only other person that would even be close would be like Cody and Roman because they fought night one, but I think he still led in probably ring time. So
yeah,
I mean, he was out there a lot. Like you said, put his ego to the side, got jobbed by everyone, lost it, went out bad in every single instance that he showed up. So
yeah,
but like you said, he did a great job putting his ego to the side, and yeah, just overall very entertaining. Gunther losing to
Sami Zayn.
Yeah, that was. I ain't gonna lie. That one I had no idea what was gonna happen. After one, once I figured Gunther was gonna lose when he tried to jump off the rope the third time because I'm like, all right, they're not gonna just let him do it 3 times. But before that, I had no idea what was gonna happen. So that was a very good match. They both did an outstanding job. But That one was like I had no what was going to happen.
And I didn't want Gunther to lose. I really like Gunther, but I also am glad that he elevated the Intercontinental belt to where it's like if you're going to hold that belt, you need to be number one active. Gunther was always active, and he held it for 666 days, which is the longest single reign of the Intercontinental belt in WWE history. And also, you're gonna have great matches every time you participate or anytime you compete. Gunther did that. Sami Zayn getting over and winning, that pop was crazy when he got that win. And it allows Gunther to elevate into the world title scene. I don't think he's going to challenge Cody Rhodes for the WWE belt. I'm pretty sure he'll be looking for that world heavyweight title. I think it's going to be a storyline, and that's what I like about WrestleMania, because you got so much shit now you can work with. Damian Priest is now, I think he's the first Puerto Rican world champion, but Drew McIntyre is going to be looking for his get back. You also got CM Punk, who costed him. He's going to frame it as if CM Punk costed him his belt. He's going to want to get back. I know Clash at the Castle is in a few months, and it's going to be in Scotland. So we should be seeing that soon. CM Punk, he should be coming back from injury as well. I feel like Gunther should be in contention for that belt soon. Gunther versus Drew McIntyre will always be 100% absolutely amazing to watch. So it's just so many options. I love it. I love it. Another feel good moment was R-Truth and The Miz, Awesome Truth winning the Raw Tag Team titles. That was really fun. That was really, 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 really fun. I'm glad R-Truth, R-Truth, he is a staple of not just the WWE, but just wrestling in general. That man has been active for so long. And to finally get him his WrestleMania moment, it was very, I'm happy to see it. He was, the crowd was going crazy for anything he was doing. He is one of the bigger baby faces in the company as well. I'm glad he got his moment. The women's matches, I think out of all of them, Io Sky versus Bayley was the best. I really liked that one. That was really good. Not Becky Lynch, I'm sorry. Bayley beating Io Sky for the WWE Women's Championship. And then the second was probably that tag team match with Jade Cargill, Bianca Belair, and Naomi beating
Damage Control.
Yeah, Damage Control. That's what I was like. What the fuck am I thinking of? Yeah, Damage Control. That was a really good one too. Oh, it was so nice seeing those three black women up on stage. Oh, I loved it. I loved it.
Yeah,
that was real. I was really happy to see them. They look like fucking superheroes. I ain't gonna lie.
Naomi has a build, man. She is fucking shredded. Like,
yeah.
I mean, they all look great, but Naomi in particular, she is like got such a build on her. Like,
and then I love how they're being portrayed as like they're badass. Like they're not just sex symbols. They're not just something to look at. Oh, these motherfuckers are fucking crazy. Like these are some real deal badass women, and I love it. I love how they're being propped up, and they are, we were looking forward to these matches. It's been like that for years, but I always want to like kind of restate that this is very, good to see women be represented in this manner. Like, and they're not just how they used to be in WWE. There's so many previous years of how they were that it's still refreshing to see them be portrayed in this manner. So I love that. Like I said, they look like damn superheroes up there. What else?
I like that. Like I said, I like to see them portrayed as actual for their wrestling. To see them recognized for their wrestling and not just for their sexual appeal or anything like that. I'm a little torn. On Bayley versus Io because I love. Y'all know I love Io. She's probably my favorite women's wrestler. One of my favorite wrestlers in general. But I ain't gonna lie to you. Bayley is from the Bay. Whole thing is in her name. So I do support her on that front. She's been at the 49er playoff games and everything. She's a very avid Bay supporter. So I am with Bayley on that. Shout out her. And just shout out their match in general because they had, like you said, I think probably the best women's match for sure. And then just one of the best matches in general. And it was a very like you said, very great night for women. Even Rhea versus Becky Lynch, that was a very entertaining fight. Rhea is, I don't really, she 100%. She's actually the longest title holder now of any belt at 375 days, and I think she fully deserves that with the women's heavyweight because she's just kind of held that division. Held that division up for a good little bit now. Very entertaining wrestler to watch.
Absolutely. Now there were a couple of like meh matches. One of which Jimmy Uso versus Jey Uso. Jey Uso, the babyface, main event. Jey finally getting that. I know it was a dream match of theirs to have. Jey Uso won, but it wasn't the blow off match that I wanted. The promo was very nice. It was very well put together, and it shows everything. How we got here. They have been a staple of our childhood of WWE, but that match was mediocre. It was bad. I hate how they did the super kick. The super kick is so played out now. It's like it's just an ordinary move now, just like a regular punch at this point. It's like I think it ranks very low as far as its effectiveness. There's so many wrestlers that use it, and it was used so frequently during that match that now the damage that it deals, I look at someone do a super kick now and I'm just like, okay, like it's not good at all.
Yeah.
I would love for everybody to just maintain that, the sweet chin music from Shawn Michaels is 110% different from these super kicks that everyone else is throwing. And it used to be a protected move. Like it was back in the 90s, even in the early 2000s. There weren't too many people that used a super kick. It was Shawn Michaels, and that was it, pretty much. And then the Usos, and then Dolph Ziggler, and then it just blew up. It blew up out of damn proportion. So now that move is cooked. It's so cooked. Same thing with the spear, damn near. The spear is pretty dead in my eyes as well. That's always been a move that's been used by everyone. Goldberg, Edge, Rhino. But once Christian started to use it, that's when I was like, okay, it's starting to. It's starting to.
I wouldn't go as far with the spirit because I don't think too many people use it today. And especially because Roman's kind of put his staple on it. As far as in this era, I would say when I think of the spear, Edge is the first person to come to mind, but then second is Roman Reigns. I wouldn't say I think of I don't think of it as a general move, but I do see what you're saying, especially with the super kick. The super kick has really become just, like you said, a regular move just because of the frequency of it. Everybody hits it, so then you can't look at it as a finisher because people are just taking finishers left and right now. Like that's not, that's not how it works. So I definitely agree with the super kick. And I did see people on Twitter expecting kind of a super kick off. But the way it was handled in general, that match, the only really intriguing part was whether or not, when he tried to get him to forgive him, when Jimmy kind of feigned that he was, remorseful and things of that sort. And then he betrayed him. That was kind of really the most intriguing part of that match, but everything else was a little meh. I do agree with that. But yeah, I do wish that match was just was better because the promo for it and the build up in general for it was pretty hype.
Hey man, I don't know. Like if you see the amount of damn wrestlers in the WWE right now that use this spear, like Angelo Dawkins, who wrestled in that street fight against False Prophets. That was pretty entertaining. They had Bubba Ray Dudley, a special guest referee, back in his home roots of Philly, where ECW made its mark. He uses it. Jey Uso uses it. Braun Breaker uses it. Bobby Lashley uses it. Hey, like I will just like I get it, and then Roman Reigns does put his little stank on it. With his build up in the beginning, and they sell it very well. Like when he speared The Rock accidentally on night one, that was a really good sell.
Yeah, The Rock acted like he got it with a gun. Right?
So Roman Reigns does it very well. But and even just like in the past too, when it was Batista who had it, Christian who had it, Edge who had it, Bobby Lashley who has it, Rhino who had it. It was up, there's only a few where they were sold very, very well. Like Rhino's was probably the best. Goldberg's too. Even better than
Over
Edge.
Edge? Yeah,
Like I will look back on it, and Edge's spear, it was iconic because of how he hyped it up when he was in the corner. But the actual execution of the move, nah, bro. Rhino and Goldberg.
I'm gonna have to go rewatch him.
You won't look like that shit hurts. Dude, Goldberg would literally run through a nigga. Rhino too would too. Like it literally looked like they were piercing them. Edge was more so like the setup was what was iconic for him.
Yeah.
At least mine. Need some eyes. But yeah, I enjoyed WrestleMania 40. I enjoyed the Monday night afterwards as well. Very great show. Very, very, very entertaining. And I'm excited to see where we go from here. I don't think we're going to see another long title reign like we saw with Roman. That was 3.5 years at the top. You know how crazy that is?
I don't think we have to. It's in a really good place because when Roman took it, he kind of had to have it on his back the way he did. The way when he took over in 2019, he just the way it was not. I saw a post recently about the last 5 people who pinned him, and the list was pretty nasty. Like other than Cody Rhodes, the list was
Jey Uso. Yeah,
Jey Uso last year, and then in 2019 it was Baron Corbin, Rowan, and Shane McMahon.
Yeah,
that's kind of nasty to me. Like he if WWE was in a rough spot, and he kind of carried through that title reign. So I do want to give him his props for that reign because he has
absolutely
obviously we know the dominance, but just he held the company on his back.
He did. So now we have someone who he is part-time as well, but we have someone who is full-time wrestling and Cody Rhodes. We're gonna have an active champion and someone who is, I don't want to call him an underdog, but like if you looked at Roman Reigns and then you looked at Cody, like the size difference, their appearance, like I hate this word, but even their aura looked different. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it looked like Roman Reigns was like could never be defeated, and Cody Rhodes is just trying. So that's why the storytelling was really good. But now he's on top. We'll see what you can do with it. I think he's going to hold it for a good, significant amount of time. Have some great matches. And yeah, I want to see what they're going to do with Roman now because Roman over here talking like he's ready to get back in action.
Yeah, I'm hearing some SummerSlam talks.
Yeah,
I'm hearing some SummerSlam talks. I think he was SmackDown right before SummerSlam. He's slated or something like that. I don't know. We'll have to see, but I am excited to see what non-title holding Roman. I think it gives him a little bit more freedom. I think it definitely gives him a little bit more freedom, not having to, have that championship on his back. And so I like I said, excited to see what they do. They're really set up. It's in a really good place right now.
Because we also need to see what happens with the bloodline too. I mean, the bloodline took some big L's this weekend. They got Jimmy Uso lost. Solo Sikoa got jumped on by John Cena. The Rock got speared by his own cousin, Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns lost his belt. So, where do we stand as far as the bloodline?
And then in the women's, Damage Control all lost. EO lost, and then they lost the triple, the 3-on-3 tag team match. So that, got some over there. The blood, like you said, the bloodline for sure is definitely should be one of the priorities. Just, the Rock, the whole, it's gotten very deep, the lore of the bloodline at this point. And you almost have to go back a little bit to read up on how the whole thing, I had to go back a little bit to read up on how the whole thing, figures itself out. But yeah, it's just got a lot to work with, got a lot to figure out, but I trust Triple H's creative direction entirely.
Me too. That was a really great WrestleMania. I have rewatched the main event at least twice now. It was, that's definitely going to be a match I remember fondly. And to say that I missed the damn eclipse, but I ain't missed WrestleMania. So I'm cool with that trade-off.
We didn't get the total eclipse here anyway. You could only really see it you literally could only see it with the glasses because it was still straight sun.
Oh, damn. So now I don't feel as bad. Now transitioning to the Final Four in both the NCAA men's and women's division. Let's start with the women, huh? South Carolina, led by Dawn Staley, they beat Iowa 87-75 in the national championship to complete their perfect season. Yes, you heard that right. Perfect season. Not perfect postseason, not just a perfect regular season. They did not lose a single game all year. Where else have you heard that? You know what I'm saying? Like, how often does this happen? I don't care that it's college, professional. How often does something perfect happen in life, period?
And then winning it at the end. Because we've seen a lot of really good stuff fold at the end, but able to complete the perfect season. Dawn Staley and the Gamecocks women's basketball is 109-3 in the last 3 years. They've lost 3 games in 3 years. I mean, what Dawn Staley has turned that program into, the powerhouse that they are, taking down Caitlyn Clark, who's kind of like the golden child of the WNBA right now, seemingly able to do whatever she wants offensively, being able to overcome that team and just, like I said, the pure dominance that they've had over the women's NCAA basketball the last couple of years, 2 chips in 3 years. It's just unprecedented.
And again, this is another women's game that smashed viewership records. The South Carolina and Iowa had an average of 18.7 million viewers, which is another record by them. It's a continuous thing now. This is the state of women's basketball. And like we talked about in the last episode, they're going to have to capitalize on this. It has been an amazing postseason, been an amazing season period, or amazing tournament rather. Amazing tournament, amazing season of college women's basketball. It was higher than the most recent World Series games. The fact that we can say this about women's sports is like surprising. It's shocking, to say the least, that they're doing bigger numbers than the World Series. They're doing bigger numbers than NBA Finals games.
Bigger numbers in the men's championship game. It was the first time in NCAA history that the women outsold the men, or outviewed the men in the NCAA championship.
Yeah, and it was worthy. Like, it was a very great game. I enjoyed it, and it was Caitlyn Clark had a great first half. The second half, she was standing there playing on her own, bro. It was very hard for the rest of the team to really get going. Like, she had 13 points in like the first in the first quarter. So she starts off strong. That's what they always do. But I think it was one of those things where going into the game, the Gamecocks were like, hey, if we can play hard the first half of basketball, she's going to get hers. You know what I'm saying? She's going to get hers. But if we can continue to play our brand of basketball and not fold under her offensive will and make it to where no one else for Iowa is creating any type of offense, one woman can't beat a whole team, especially a team that has been playing and it's so fleshed out. Look, the Gamecocks were putting their bench in and they were dropping mad buckets. There was no drop off in production from their starting unit to their bench unit, and that was just so like you're just getting beat up on all angles. You don't get no breaks with them.
They had like 30 bench points in the game, and it was Dawn Staley didn't even call a timeout to get the run going. She just gave them a look, and that was all it took to get them to lock in. Because I mean, like you said, it was just no drop off in production. That the starters came in, took them a little second to get going, but once they got going, they did their thing, and then just seamlessly transitioned to the bench. Whereas Iowa, pretty much everybody outside of Caitlyn Clark was a non-factor. And that's exactly what the Gamecocks probably playing for, is to just, Caitlyn Clark is such a insane player. She's going to get hers regardless, and she did get hers regardless. You can't shut her down for an entire game. It's not going to happen. So, the way they were able to kind of ride the storm and just, let her do her thing, or not let her do her thing, but, relatively speaking, let her get hers and shutting down everybody else. They executed it perfectly, and they were able to come out with the win because of it.
And I said it wrong. Caitlyn Clark had 18 first quarter points, which was the most in a quarter in the national championship game. She scored 13 straight to get them to a 20-9 score in the first quarter. So again, Caitlyn Clark came to play. She didn't falter not once at all during this entire tournament. She showed up to play. She was ready for the big moment. All the hype is worthy. Like she isn't one of these players where it's like, oh, she just rolled the wave a little bit and she just caught fire at the right time. No, she's built like that, and she showed up to play. 30 points, 8 rebounds. It was her box score at the end of it. But like we said, the Gamecocks stayed focused, and that's what we're saying. Where Gamecocks stayed focused. South Carolina knew that she wouldn't be able to beat them on her own. They stayed focused. Like I said, you didn't have to call no break or nothing. The team knew when to lock in, and it was just so swift, the destruction that came afterwards. But yeah, it was a great game. Very, very, very happy to see. I wish Kobe was here because Kobe would fucking be going crazy at the women's basketball that they've been producing so far. He was a big advocate for the WNBA, big fan of women's basketball, of course, with his with his daughter. Rest in peace. I wish that he was here to see it. I feel like he would really enjoy it. I'm not gonna lie.
So he was one of the bigger proponents for women's basketball before the hype, before the Caitlyn Clarks and the Angel Reeses. So it's definitely, God rest his soul, but he's especially with Gigi and how she was supposed to go to UConn and things of that sort. Yeah, it's in such a phenomenal place, women's sports all around. Like I said, we were talking about wrestling earlier, how women's wrestling is kind of being held to the same level, being at the same level as men's wrestling and the stages they're being put on. Now we're talking about with women's basketball by the point where their viewership is more than men's basketball. So it's great to see. It's great to see for sure.
It is. Now for the men, UConn, they repeated, and it just looked like from the jump that they were the best team in this tournament. Like it looked like it. Like it was honestly, I want to say it was a foregone conclusion, but because Zach Edey for Purdue, he looked good at the beginning of the national title game. He looked good. The dude is just, firstly, he's a freak athlete. It looked like 7'4". Like that is just mind-boggling size. He runs like a damn giraffe. Absolutely no grace in his running, no speed in his running.
300 too, like not just 7'4". Wimby's 7'4". He's 230. He's like 7'4", 300.
He's fleshed out. That boy, he is fleshed out. But the UConn Huskies, they beat Purdue Boilermakers 75-60. That's their now. I think they're tied for the most national title wins with 6, and their first one came in like 1999. So in the last 25 or so years, they've been one of the best programs in the nation. That was surprising for me to learn. At halftime, UConn was winning by only 6 points. In less than 5 minutes, it went to 11. And then in 10 minutes, that gap went to 16. And after that, that was the point where it was like, okay.
Yeah, it was kind of
they had their chance, and now UConn came and they just snapped that. So congrats to the UConn Huskies, congrats to Dan Hurley. It was a good game as well. It was a good tournament for both sides. I think that with the dissolving of what was it that was being dissolved? It's what's this? What for the NBA that they're the G League Ignite, right?
Yeah.
Aren't they quitting that? Yeah, they're stopping that.
That.
So I'm sure we're going to see, star players out of high school go back to going to the NCAA, especially now with
get paid.
Yeah, with the NIL deals and such. I think there's going to be just more incentive to go back to college. I think that we're going to be getting back to more good and exciting tournaments again. This one was another great one. I enjoyed it. Zach Edey, he dropped 37 on that game. Like I said, he was the only one, just like with Iowa. And that was it. And for Purdue, it was Zach Edey, and that was it, brother. So it's one of those things where we just saw two complete teams go against two forces of nature. You know what I'm saying? An immovable object meets an unstoppable force. Which one won? That type of deal. And it was very entertaining. I didn't. I watched. I was trying to watch them both at the same time, WrestleMania and the games when they did come on. But I was so invested in WrestleMania, so I
Yeah.
kind of my viewership lacked a little bit. But then I'll catch back on, watch the highlights, try to catch back up with it. But then I'll just go right back to WrestleMania. But yeah, it was a busy ass weekend. As I'm going blurry again. Hey man, I don't know what's going on tonight. This is like world record for the amount of blurriness I've had in one episode.
Yeah, like I said, it was a very very busy weekend. Between WrestleMania, obviously the championship, it was just felt like my attention was being pulled in all some different directions. And then last night with the NCAA championship, I was at the gym. I just put it on in the gym, just to watch it, in between my sets and things of that sort. It like you said, as soon as the second half hit, 5 minutes in, you could tell what the deal was. Like 5 minutes in, the Purdue just looked so drained and defeated. UConn just went to put their foot on their necks, and they did that. But yeah, like you said, overall, very entertaining weekend. Very, sports in general are just is in such a good place right now. Such a great place right now. And this weekend we got another relatively busy weekend coming up with UFC 300 this weekend. So got a lot to look for. Just busy April at this point.
Yeah, it's going to be a very, very, very busy weekend as well. And then, of course, this is the last week of the NBA. So, going to go right into the play-in and playoff action. So, yeah, we got a lot. We're going to be eating very, very good. So, now, moving on to the MLB, we have a shoulder issue. We have a pitching problem in the MLB right now. Let me give you some of these names. Let me give you some of these names. The list of players who are already recovering from elbow reconstruction or are currently injured at this time: Shohei Ohtani, Jacob deGrom, Sandy Alcantara, Felice Bautista, Andrew Painter, our pitcher for the Braves. His name's slipping off my tongue.
Max?
What's his name?
Oh, no, Spencer Strider.
Yeah, Spencer Strider. I almost said Andrew Man. I don't know why. Spencer Strider and many, 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 many more at an absolutely absurd rate are suffering shoulder or other related arm injuries from pitching. And it's like now on like a daily basis that we're getting a report that a player is getting placed on the IL due to an arm related injury. It's concerning to say the least because it's like an absurd rate of how often we're seeing these players get added to the list. And of course, like I said, some of the players I already mentioned that are already recovering from something similar. Is this a problem with pitching or with pitchers themselves? Is it technique issues? Is it the pitch clock? Is it the frequency of games being played? Is it how hard they're throwing? What is going on with all of these injuries?
There's so much speculation that's around a lot of people. If you ask people on Twitter, it's the pitch clock. Some pitchers themselves are saying it's a result of the banning of sticky stuff, things of that sort. There's just so much speculation and not quite enough evidence to really support any conclusion. You can't. It's hard to say the pitch clock because it's just, and it's easy to see the correlation with the pitch clock because it was just implemented and all of a sudden we have all these injuries, but correlation does not always equal causation. So when you have that, the pitch clock, I personally don't believe that it's the pitch clock by itself, but it could be a result of all of the factors coming together. One of the bigger things, Tyler Glass now in 2021, 2022, said that the banning of sticky stuff was, made it harder to grip the baseballs. That could, he had to almost do an awkward grip on the baseball and made it harder to grip, so it puts more stress on the elbow, things of that sort. So that, some pitchers and things of that sort believe that. Some people say it's just a pure velo problem, a pure velocity problem, that pitchers are just throwing harder than ever. We're casually getting breaking balls in the 90s and things of that sort, fastballs in the upper 90s, low 100s and things of that sort. So a lot of people think it's just straight up putting too much strain on your arm. I think it's personally just a accumulation of everything. There's it's hard to point to any one factor when you have such a phenomenon with all of these injuries, but it's just a matter of, I think, all of these things coming together to lead to all of these different injuries. Like I
So
said,
I
with
have
the
a question then. I have a
yeah,
question.
absolutely.
I know you mentioned velocity. Is it safe to say that, and this is not to take away from the the difficulty and the nuances that come with being an MLB pitcher, but is it safe to say that these pitchers are more classified as throwers rather than pitchers? Like, I mean, velocity. You have to be throwing the ball fast to be making money, to be to get into the upper echelon of pitchers. However, I feel like there should be a little bit more finesse when it comes with the art of pitching. With velocity, anybody can pick up a ball and throw the bitch hard. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, it's not to take away from all of the other complications of pitching. However, if velocity is what everybody is putting such a price tag on, such a value on, where does the art of pitching, where does the technique come into play?
Yeah, well, there's definitely a couple things like power to finesse ratio. We are seeing much higher power to finesse ratios. Part of that is going back into the banning, like I said, Tyler Glass now mentioning the banning of sticky stuff, because a little bit of history on sticky stuff. It's basically any foreign substance that players use to, or pitchers in particular use to get a better grip on the ball. Tyler Glass now says he used sunscreen. Pine tar was a very popular option for that. But essentially, prior to 2021, there's a little bit of ML, a little bit of baseball history here. Even though it's very recent, it is history. So Trevor Bauer and Garrett Cole, both Cy Young pitchers, they both pitched together at UCLA. Basically, you had two dominant pitchers in the same battery at UCLA. They absolutely hated each other, right? And so from there, they both get to the MLB, and essentially Garrett Cole in 2018, he goes to Houston and he has the best year of his career, posts a 2.8 ERA, lowest ERA, highest, most strikeouts in the league. He's absolutely dealing. So in 2019, Trevor Bauer's pure hatred for Garrett Cole, he's saying, hey, look, these guys are using these foreign substances to gain a competitive advantage, and the competitive advantage was the finesse pitches that you're talking about, because it increases your spin rate. So now on your breaking balls, and your breaking balls being balls that aren't fastballs, they're thrown with, like you said, finesse. They have lots of movement, sliders, things of that sort, curveballs, things of that sort. You have a higher spin rate on those grips, so you're able to get that higher spin rate, gives you much more break. So now you got balls, they're dropping further. Pause, no Diddy. You got balls that are getting more horizontal break. They're getting more vertical break. So, Trevor Bauer is like, hey, these guys are using this sticky stuff. And it was illegal, but similar to the steroid usage in the early 2000s, and we all know that era, Barry Bonds, Mark McGwire, Sosa, all of those guys. If everybody's using it, nobody's using it, is essentially how the MLB looked at it. And so Trevor Bauer, he goes on a whole campaign. These guys are using sticky stuff and it's giving them an advantage. So then in 2020, he's like, all right, I'm going to use this sticky stuff and I'm going to show you really how easy it is to dominate with this stuff on my pitches. So he uses it, posts the best season in the MLB pitching wise, wins a Cy Young, but that whole time he's making it very apparent, I'm using sticky stuff. This is why I'm doing so good. So now from then, the MLB is like, all right, it's bad optics, because now it's kind of like we're openly rewarding cheating. And so from there, I still remember very vividly the crackdown that they had on the sticky stuff. They were making it like every inning you had to, as a pitcher, show the ump your belt, show him your hat, show him your glove, make sure that there was no foreign substances on there. They had guys getting tossed out, things of that sort. So like MLB came down hard on the sticky stuff, and that has probably affected the power to finesse ratio, seeing a lot less finesse just because guys aren't able to use the sticky stuff, and they're not able to get that spin rate that causes those finesse pitches to be as dominant as they were just a couple years ago. So I say all that to say, to your point, it is partially a lack of, could be a lack of finesse technique being taught. Guys just coaches focusing on how hard can you throw a fastball, much less on what is your technique on your slider and your curveball, what is your technique on your breaking ball pitches and things of that sort. But at the same time, hitters are so elite now. With the whole analytics and everything, the hitting is just at an all-time high. You got guys that will absolutely destroy your pitches if you're just a hair, if you leave it over the plate by just a hair. Guys are taking pitches that aren't even over the plate home, deep. So it's like it's a hard predicament. It is definitely a predicament, and I don't know exactly what you can do other than, I don't want to say bring back the sticky stuff, but I don't want to say that it's don't bring it back, because we still had high-powered offenses even with the sticky stuff. In 2019, the Red Sox put up the all-time record in team home runs with 400 something. The Braves they didn't break it. They came close, but they put up the all-time records in team home runs even with pitchers using the sticky stuff. So now, it's just a lot of question marks to go around.
I think this MLB season is just overall not it's not starting off very strong. Like, players' uniforms are ripping. Of course, the uniforms are still an issue, with Fanatics being the new manufacturer under Nike. All of these injuries, like, it's an actual problem. Like, this isn't something where it's like, damn, well, it sucks that it happened to him so early. It sucked. No, like, it's almost like half the league has some type of elbow injury or shoulder injury to a star pitcher. Like, these aren't damn people who just stick around or they're recent call-ups. No, these are like real pertinent contributing members to their team.
Young winners and things of that sort.
Like real award winners. So the fact that this is happening, it needs to be addressed. I'm not sure how. It's easy for me to just say mechanics. I don't know why people are blaming the pitch clock. I don't think that has to deal with all the ways why. Like, I don't think that's really a big reason.
I don't think so either. So they say, you have less cool down time between your pitches, but I think in reality, it's only a couple seconds between that they're staving off with the pitch clock. So I don't think that's a significant change. It should not. I don't think it's significant enough. Like, the pitch clock, like I said, only changes it by a couple seconds every pitch. So you
pitching is just the way how fast you're throwing and the arm movements. It doesn't look natural anyways. Like, it doesn't look like something that should be done routinely over the course of a full season. So if anything, blame that. That's what I'm saying. Go back to blaming the mechanics of why these injuries are happening.
Honestly, I think part of it, we got so many guys that are elite starting pitchers. But when you look at relievers, there is not a lot of elite reliever talent in the MLB right now. So guys are having to pitch longer. You got your starting pitchers out there for 6, 7, 8 innings rather than having them out there for 4, 5, 6 innings, because you can't count on your relievers to give you quality innings after that. So that could be a factor as well. You got these pitchers pitching more innings just because of the fact that there's not a lot of elite reliever talent right now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of factors that go into it.
It is. And, it's going to be up to the MLB to figure out how to alleviate this, because, like I said, it's still very early in the season. We're like only 3 weeks in, barely. So, like, it's so early, and the fact that this is the main topic of conversation. Like, let's be real. For the MLB, for these 3 weeks, you've had injuries, Shohei scandal, and the uniform malfunction. This is horrible the way the MLB is starting off. So
that's why they're getting Manfred's ass out of there come 2027, because his contract is already not getting renewed. Because
the athletics just being a fucking dumpster fire and an embarrassment of like it's just a bad look for how they're treating the team and the way that they are handling their move to Las Vegas. These fools ain't finna be there. They're finna be playing in Sacramento. Was it next season or in 2 seasons or something like that?
Yeah, until 2028, and they're saying
Fools
maybe
not
even
gonna be,
2029.
so like these fools not even gonna be in Las Vegas no time soon, and they're just actively bombing their franchise, and the MLB ain't doing nothing about it. Y'all need to step in and make these motherfuckers want to play for something. So right now, man, the MLB is just it's bad how the way this season is starting. It's just bad.
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie, Rob Manfred, he's doing a absolute dumpster fire job. Like I said, that's why they're getting his ass out of there. I mean, it's just like we're like you said, we're not even talking about the baseball at this point. We've had very
about
little
actual on-field play.
Exactly, very little on-field discussion. We're talking about gambling scandals, talking about injuries, rapid injuries, and we're talking about uniform malfunctions. That third one shouldn't even be a sub. That shouldn't even be that shouldn't even be in the realm of possibility.
It was never a problem
subject until they switched it to Fanatics. So they got this deal with Fanatics, and now it's all of a sudden you got terrible looking uniforms. You got uniforms not showing up on time. Literally, the Brewers can't use their City Connect uniforms because they're not going to show up on time. You got that today, or a player's whole leg seam ripped open when he slid at home plate. Like, just ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
Like it's sad. It's sad and an embarrassment to this a very storied league right now. Like we're going, like this is just bad. Like there's no other way to put it, but this is just bad and embarrassing. But yeah, so I don't know what can be done to fix these injuries though, whether there's rule changes, or mechanics being changed, or I mean, like you said, perhaps these players. I'm not sure how it works, but can you train specifically to be a relief pitcher? Like how I'm gonna grow up to be a quarterback. I want to grow up to be a relief pitcher. Is that a thing? Like is that common?
Yeah, because I mean, you see, with starting pitchers, it's mainly about enduring. A lot of relievers literally cannot pitch. They just, because of the mechanics of their pitching, they literally cannot pitch the same amount of pitches that these starting pitchers do. And so that's why it used to be just the relievers who were throwing the 100-mile-per-hour pitches and things, because that was their specialty. You would bring them in because they could give you an inning or two of just absolute gas. But now you got starting pitchers who are throwing 100-mile-per-hour pitches and things of that sort. So now with the relievers, normally with relievers, you either specialize in power or you specialize in finesse. Starters are kind of supposed to be the mix of the two. They're able to get you with the fastball, a quality fastball, but not an absolute gun. And then relievers were the ones that would come in and give you 100 plus almost stuff, or have devastating breaking balls, but they just could not do it all a bunch of times.
Where is the glory? Which of those, the starting pitchers or the relief pitchers, have more glory?
Starting pitchers, they get a lot glory, money. You Cy Young winners. I don't know if a reliever has ever won a Cy Young. Definitely not in the last. I know for sure not in the last 30 years, but I don't think they've ever won a Cy Young with the reliever, because they have their own award. It's just not as I can't even tell you the name. But yeah, exactly. I can't even tell you the name because I don't even know. It's just like you said, it's not as prominent. But it's the starters and the closers are who get the glory, because the starters, obviously, they start and they're gonna give you the 6 innings, and they're the guys who get the Cy Youngs and things of that sort. They're literally the guys you see the most. And then the closers, obviously, the guys who are known to shut shit down. They're the ones that are coming in the 9th inning when the pressure's high, the stakes are the highest. They're the ones that come in to handle business. The middle relief pitchers and the long relief pitchers, the guys you bring in for those middle innings between the starter and the closer, those are the guys that are more leg work. They're not, like you said, they don't get much of the glory for it, but they do the dirty work. They give you those innings that you can't get from a starter or a closer.
Right. So yeah, I'm not sure how this is going to be fixed, but it needs to have a solution very soon, because, like I said, it's like it's odd. I don't even know what the type of word to put on it, but it's an influx of injuries, and it's very absurd. It's not good for the game of baseball. It's not a good look, period. Like, who wants to see these starting star pitchers be on the sideline because they can't throw? The only thing that they are really that they're their specialty, and they can't even do that. That's it's not good to see. So we'll see how that continues to take shape throughout this season. Like I said, this season is less than 3 weeks old. Less than 3 weeks old. We're seeing all these problems. Transition to the Basketball Hall of Fame class of 2024. It's being headlined by Vince Carter, Chauncey Billups, Simone Augustus, and as well as Walter Davis, Michael Cooper, Bo Ryan, and Charles Smith. So, of course, Vince Carter is the most notable name on that list. He Bonafide Hall of Fame. We knew he was going to go to the Hall of Fame 10 years before he retired. But part of the, his nickname was the half man, half amazing. One of the greatest highlight reels in NBA history. Chauncey Billups, NBA champion, great point guard. He took down, as well as the rest of his team on that 04 Pistons, took down the juggernaut of a squad, which was the 2004 Lakers with Shaq, Kobe, Derek Fisher, Karl Malone, Gary Payton, and it was a big upset victory. Simone Augustus, she is a college and WNBA star. She won the Naismith and Wooden Awards in back-to-back years at LSU, went number 1 in the 2006 WNBA draft, 8-time All-Star. A lot of great achievements. Michael Cooper, he was a part of Showtime Lakers. Walter Davis played for the Suns during the majority of his career. He was a 6-time All-Star. But I have a problem with the NBA Hall of, or the Basketball Hall of Fame. It's too easy to get in. It's the Hall of Fame. Okay. And this is not to take away from any of those players. However, I really think that the criteria in order to make a Hall of Fame needs to be stricter. We don't even know who votes for the Hall of Fame for basketball. We don't even know who has a vote. At least for MLB, we've seen some dumbasses not vote for players in the MLB, but at least we know. At least we can hold them accountable. We don't even know who's voting for who for the Basketball Hall of Fame. And I just really think that there needs to be a new wing where it's strictly NBA Hall of Fame based on strict parameters for how you make it. And this, I don't like giving credence to ring culture. No, I don't like giving credence to people who only talk about stats, because there's way more to basketball and impact than stats and rings. But Tony Kukoc is in the Basketball Hall of Fame. Michael Cooper is in the Basketball Hall of Fame, or he's being inducted. And these are nothing against these two players, but that is not Hall of Fame material. I just don't know what, or I just think that basketball is too vague. It's Basketball Hall of Fame. We got, is it the NFL Hall of Fame or Football Hall of Fame?
NFL
Hall of Fame. It's the MLB Hall of Fame or Baseball Hall of Fame?
MLB.
You know what I'm saying? Like, we need specifics. It's not. It needs to be league specific with strict requirements to get in. I really think so.
I agree wholeheartedly. That's a big misconception with a lot of people. A lot of people don't know that it is the Basketball Hall of Fame. It's not the NBA Hall of Fame. I do absolutely think, and currently it's called the North American Committee, right? Vince Carter, Chauncey Billups, those guys were elected to the North American Committee of the Basketball Hall of Fame. But like you said, it's just too the parameters. I think when you look at like the NFL parameter and who hasn't made the NFL Hall of Fame, you see that because the parameters for that are so strict. You essentially have to be a transcendent player in the NFL to make the NFL Hall of Fame. And I think the NBA should be like that. They're like you said, there needs to be its own wing. Like I said, not North American Hall. No, there needs an NBA Hall of Fame where you have to be an outstanding player, not just outstanding, a transcendent player in the National Basketball Association to make it. Because, right, it just kind of, and like you said, you don't want to take away anything from the guys that have made it thus far, but in general, it takes away from the Hall of Fame itself because
Yeah.
the parameters just aren't stringent enough. Like you have guys that, like, I don't want to take anything away from Tony Kukoc, Michael Cooper, Walter Davis, any of those guys. They had great careers. They just
Walter Davis is valid, but Michael Cooper, 0-time All-Star.
He had some. He was all. He had a couple. He was a defensive player of the year.
He played with Magic Johnson.
That's true.
He played with Magic Johnson and Kareem.
He was 8-time all defense. He had a defensive player of the year. He was solid. But like you said, there's in the NFL, what do we always talk about? The Hall of Very Good. There's guys that are really good talents that just don't have quite what it takes to make the Hall of Fame. With the NBA, it seems like all you have to be is very good. You don't have to be a top elite 1% NBA guy to make the Basketball Hall of Fame. And so I think we just need, like you said, there needs to be its own wing, its own, I don't care if you got to make a whole new hall or whatever you got to do. Yeah. There needs to be its own category with its own set of rules.
Right. And like I said, of course, I mean, let's just be real. Imagine you making the NFL Hall of Fame with 0 Pro Bowls. You couldn't make what? That just sounds like it doesn't sound right. You're a Hall of Fame player, but you didn't make an All-Star game. The All-Star is probably the lowest level of you're really good that you can possibly get in any sport. And the Hall of Fame is the absolute pinnacle of, oh shit, you were really good. So the fact that you couldn't make the lowest level, but you're making the highest, it doesn't add up. Now, of course, we're not going to get into the conversation of we're done with the 90s, we're done with the 80s. We're not going to get into that. I will go absolute 30 on these folks on that one. But Michael Cooper was very versatile. Yeah, like these folks don't know. If you just go back and watch the games, of course, it's not going to be as entertaining to casuals as it is now. But the games were still being played for how well they were back then. Shit evolves, dummies. But Michael Cooper was the go-to defender for Larry Bird during those 3 different times they matched up in the finals. Like you said, you mentioned all of his all-defensive team selections. He was very good, but Hall of Fame worthy. Let's not even get into the amount of coaches and contributors and other players that have made the Hall of Fame with way less than what even Michael Cooper has to his resume. I don't like, for example, another one, Yao Ming. Yao Ming made it due to his cultural impact, but the man was hurt a lot of his career. He never made it out of even with Tracy McGrady as his teammate. He never made it out of the first round.
Arvydas Sabonis is
and he was in this for very specific impacts to worldwide spread of basketball. I think Drazen Petrovic is in it as well, but he's another one where he died in the middle of his career. That shit is crazy as fuck. It's sad and it's tragic, but Hall of Fame. You know what I'm saying? I just think that we need to put more emphasis on that. This is like
the peak. This is the top of the mountain.
Get better than the Hall of Fame.
Exactly. This is the top of the mountain.
Nothing more than that. Besides being the actual logo itself. That is the only thing that can be better than the Hall of Fame, is to be the actual brand of the NBA. But for it to be the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame, it needs to have its own thing, and then the NBA needs to have its own Hall of Fame, where strictly NBA, and you can throw in WNBA players as well because it's a subsidiary, but it needs to be between WNBA and NBA. Now, I don't need it to be as strict as the NFL, where we're seeing players like Terrell Owens not get in because of politics, but it needs to be where, man, this man earned it. Of course, MJ, Tim Duncan, Allen Iverson, LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Kevin, GOATs. And then when we get to
pretty much anybody on that top 75, you can you throw in there.
NBA Hall of Famers. And then when you tick downwards, that's when we start to get into of course, I think in my eyes, Carmelo Anthony is a basketball Hall of Fame. Now we can get into an argument of, is he NBA Hall of Fame? You know what I'm saying? Derrick Rose, He's probably going to get into the Basketball Hall of Fame, but NBA Hall of Fame, no.
Because his prime wasn't long enough.
Right. So, and that's where we're like, oh shit, we're just giving it to really great players. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want it to be where we can have real discussion and not a fact where it's like, well, we're gonna eventually get down to him. Like Walter Davis. He's been retired for how long? He has led 50-win teams. He has been a 8-time All-Star, and he's just now getting in.
Michael Cooper, you talking about him guarding Bird? That's how long he's been. How long he's been out of the league.
Like, okay, like we're now it's just like shit. Who hasn't been in? Let's just randomize it. Oh, okay, Michael Cooper. All right, let's just throw him in there. Like, I don't know. I don't know, but I don't really like it. I think that there definitely needs to be an NBA Hall of Fame. Will they ever make one? I don't know. I doubt it, but because it is very trivial at the end of the day. But I would personally like it. I would personally like to see an NBA Hall of Fame. I think that it's just, like you said, it's the peak. It's the pinnacle. You can't get bigger than this, literally, unless you're the logo, which is Jerry West. I think that there needs to be an NBA Hall of Fame. Nothing against these guys, but Chauncey Billups, in my eyes, is not a Hall of Famer. Straight up. Straight up. Michael Cooper is not a Hall of Famer. If you're Vince Carter, yeah, we can throw him in there. Yeah.
It's argument.
You got Vince Carter. Because, of course, Olympic medals as well. Now you got to say
NBA. You can't count that.
I don't know if you can throw gold medals in there because that's basketball, not NBA. Yeah. So once again, we gotta throw it all into the equation. But I think for an NBA Hall of Fame, what will we talk about? Your championships, your individual accolades and awards, your individual stats, your impact on the game of basketball. I think that should be thrown in there. Like, okay, Allen Iverson revolutionized not just what it was to be a basketball player, but like what it was to be a superstar, like your swag, like your attitude, that should be thrown in there as well.
My favorite saying, and this is when it comes to the NFL Hall of Fame as well. If you were to open up a book and it was just about the history of the NBA, if you were to create a book about NBA history, can you tell the story with or without this player? If you need to say this player to tell the story of NBA history, that's a Hall of Famer. If you can write this book, and it should be a pretty detailed book too. If you can write this book without including this player, it's not a Hall of Famer. When you talk about, the NBA, there are certain guys you absolutely have to mention year by year. Even if we break it down on a year by year basis, there's certain guys that you have to mention. And that's why I think those are the pinnacle. Those are the guys that make the Hall of Fame. There's certain guys, like you said, they're very good. They're just not quite, you wouldn't, when I talk about the NBA history and I talk about the Showtime Lakers, I'm not going to be looking to talk about Michael Cooper as much as I am, somebody like Bird. When I talk about Magic or Kareem, that is who I'm going to talk about when I'm talking about the Showtime Lakers. Worthy. Mm-hmm. Like I said, even Jameer Nelson over Michael Cooper, right? Like there's just there's certain guys that, when you go to tell the story of the NBA, you have to include, and there's certain guys that will albeit all very great careers, just not quite Hall of Fame worthy.
Exactly. So I think Tony Kukoc really did it for me when I really started having these thoughts, because
it's crazy making the poster child of
like it just leaves a bad taste in my mouth, because I don't think that he is Hall of Fame worthy. Great things from Italy, great Italian player, but contributed to those Bulls championship teams, but Hall of Fame, brother,
6-man.
Yeah, like that's what I'm saying. Like that's why these teams have Ring of Honors. That's why these teams have jersey retirements. It's a way to like shout you out and really highlight your impact as a player to a city or a franchise or a team or whatnot. But it's like a level below Hall of Fame. You know what I'm saying? Like Ocho Cinco, he's in the Bengals Ring of Honor, but he's not a Hall of Famer. It's just plain and simple. Great athlete, great football player, great receiver, got the numbers to show, but he's not a Hall of Famer, and that's not a knock on him.
Yeah.
It's not. I don't want people to think that this is like, oh, you're dissing. It's not dissing. It's not disrespecting. I've watched these people play. I go back and I appreciate the game of basketball, and I appreciate everyone
to give them their flowers.
Yes, like every player has this. Like Udonis Haslem was an impact player for all of these Heat wins, Heat championships. But am I going to sit up there and sympathize and say he's a Hall of Famer? No, So it's just one of those things where it's like, and something I be seeing on Instagram and Twitter is people be underrating blah 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 Intername here, or people don't know how good Intername here was. Oh no, we do, but y'all gassing like with that Rajon Rondo shit. Y'all were really trying to act like he was better than Steve Nash.
Yeah, I know, that's crazy. That's crazy. I'm not. It's just. Yeah, I mean, that's nostalgia bias. That's going to hit. Two biases, nostalgia bias and recency bias, they're always going to hit. Honestly, I think nostalgia bias is probably stronger than recency bias.
Way worse, yeah.
Because a lot of times you just remember things better than they were because you can't remember it exactly how it was. But yeah, it's just like you said.
I remember Rajon Rondo being left wide open because the man can't shoot. I remember that shit clearly.
And not to mention, he was a fourth option he was never a first option. Right, like you I don't.
And when he did, after Garnett and Pierce was traded to the Nets, and Ray Allen was already long gone to the Heat. I mean, the Celtics still they were just floating. They were barely a playoff team in the 2013-2014 season. They were already moving on from him to go to IT.
Yeah,
they traded that man to the Mavericks. So like let's be real, man. That's what I'm saying. Like
Steve Nash, now he's one player that doesn't get his flowers. And I think I actually tweeted about that because of that very discussion. Because a lot of people, Steve Nash is kind of it's an accumulation of all the things that make people disinterested. He wasn't a super high points per game. He didn't have he did have some flashy passes, but he wasn't a super flat, doesn't have crazy athleticism with dunks and fillets like Kyrie or anything like that. He was also in an era where people thought his MVPs went to other people. A lot of people think that first MVP should have gone to Kobe and things of that sort. So that's another thing that people probably overlook him. But Steve Nash has Steve Nash is a two-time MVP for a damn reason.
Exactly. And let me just say this too. Bruce Bowen was also selected to about 8 all defensive teams as well. So for anyone saying that, yes, Michael Cooper did, but so there's a lot of other great defenders. Okay, how about we let's create a wing in the Hall of Fame for best defenders ever. He can go in there. He can go there, but not in the Hall of Fame. Like you said, it's not the Hall of very good. It's not the Hall of, oh yeah, he was pretty, he was part of a legendary era. Let's throw him in there. Or, I remember watching him as a kid. No. We need to, man, sports is the last meritocracy in the world. It's the one thing where your production speaks for itself for the most part. Of course, context is needed, but you're going to win based on how well you play, how well your team plays, how well you're coached, and a whole bunch of other factors. This is not a participation trophy. There's only one winner at the end of the day. To get into a Hall of Fame, I believe it should be the same. So now to wrap up this episode, Derrick Henry, who is now the newest member of the Baltimore Ravens, came out recently on the Pivot podcast and said that the Cowboys didn't holler at him at all. He was asked on a possibility of signing with the Cowboys, and he said that they never even reached out to him. The same team that had Ezekiel Elliott, and he fizzled out. The same team that took a gamble on Tony Pollard, and now he's on the Tennessee Titans. Didn't even try to take a shot at arguably the best running back, the second or third best running back in the league right now. Didn't even take a chance. Mind you, they lost their Tyron Smith on their O-line. They lost Leighton Van Der Esch in their linebacker core. They lost Michael Gallup. They lost Tony Pollard. I didn't say not one thing that they gained. Not one thing.
That's
What are
it.
we doing?
That's all. They didn't do anything. Jerry, they're all in apparently. I don't know what. I don't even know why he even made that statement. That was like, I mean, I know. I mean, obviously you don't want to say, "Hey, we just didn't try," but we can all see we're looking at you, and you did not try. There was no. I just don't know what the what do they expect? Like I don't know what they like. This is worse than just running it back with the same squad that hasn't get it done. You actively regressed. Like you did not get better. You did not maintain the same. You got worse, and you did nothing, and you didn't even try to. It's one thing to lose a bunch of free agents because you can't afford them and things of that sort, but to not even try, you didn't speak a word to Derrick Henry like that. This is I don't know what they expect. Maybe they expect Deuce Vaughn, him at 5'5", to be a transcendent running back. I don't know what.
I don't either. Or maybe they're trying to bank on Dak to CeeDee Lamb. If you know how that's going to turn out, I would love to see that shit try to happen.
Yeah, even if they were at like Josh Allen and Diggs' level, we saw what happens when you try to rely on a one, 2-man show. It doesn't work. There's no 2-man show. Other than maybe you could. No, I can't even say the Chiefs because they had Rashee Rice and Pacheco in the back. So that wasn't even a 2-man show. There is no 2-man show that works in the NFL. You have to have multiple options when it comes to an offense. And right now, they literally just have Dak and CD, and that's it. Like I don't even know who their backup receiver, who their wide receiver 2 is. I couldn't even tell you that.
It's very fitting though. Like I said, I'm not complaining. It's not complaining. Very fitting for how the Cowboys are. Hey man, we need to go ahead and get all of these old folks out of these positions. We need Jerry Jones to get out of being the owner. We need Donald Trump and Joe Biden to stop running for damn president. We need what's the Manfred of the MLB? Rob Manfred. Get his ass up on out of there. We need all these folks to please. I don't want to say it because it's very explicit, but we need them to, you know what I'm saying, start holding their flowers in that dirt. You know what I'm saying? And get all these folks up on out of here. Because it's like, what are you doing? You see what happened when Vince McMahon is pretty much exiled from his own company. Look at how great look at how great of a product we got from this. The fans are getting treated. Look at the NBA and how they're continuously innovating and trying they're trying new things with the play-in tournament, with the in-season tournament, with changing the rules for whether it's defensively or offensively, bringing in new stuff for the All-Star weekend. They're trying new things. Some is working, some fail, some are going to continue to fix or try to build upon. But look at what we're seeing. Same thing with the coaches. Look, Pete Carroll's up on out of there. Bill Belichick is up on out of there. We are seeing an influx of youth in these positions of power, and it needs to continue to spread, but just a little bit more rapidly. I don't have my patience for these old folk. We need to see this continue to go. We need to see it continue to go towards some youth, some people that we can at least relate to, maybe not monetary, maybe not growing up wise, but at least like these folks, some of these folks were born in like the 40s, bro. Like, be real.
Too, man. Like it's just the time has just come. The time is going to come for everybody, and it's just the time has come for an influx of youth in all positions, regardless, and literally all positions of power. I don't care if it's the government, I don't care if it's sports, whatever. It's time to come for an influx of youth because, frankly, it's just the world has changed so much in such a rapid amount of time that it's hard for guys that are, guys that weren't around or, guys that were around when the world was so different. It's hard for you to, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. It's hard for those guys to adapt and adjust to the current, social climate. So like you said, it's that time. As long as Jerry has his grubby mitts on the damn Cowboys,
he'll never
do anything.
And it'll never be successful. So it's I'm not complaining, like I said. However, just for the sake of like Cowboys players, some of them, not all of them, some of them. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, he's actively like throwing. He's actively throwing away like y'all's chances of success. Like we look at the NFC right now. We look at these teams that have gotten better. The Falcons have gotten better. The Eagles have gotten better. The 49ers don't need to get better. And arguably they are going to, because Brock Purdy is just going to continue to he hasn't even touched his ceiling yet, you know. So the Lions, they have gotten better. The Packers have gotten better. I just named 5 different teams that are going to be in a significantly better position than the Cowboys are going to be next year. That's just 5 off top.
Yeah, that's just off top. It's just like, I mean, they're just gonna be back in that mediocre Jason Garrett era days where they're floating around at 8-8, 8-9. Well, now there's 17 games, 9-8, 8-9. Hopefully even worse than that, because it would be hilarious. But it's just, you know, Dak has his contract.
Look, Mike McCarthy, Dak Prescott, and Jerry Jones, the fucking oblivious trio, like right there.
Yeah, and it's a shame to see guys like CD, Micah Parsons, Zach Martin on the O-line. I don't want to see these top talent waste away on a mediocre team like this. I want to see these guys compete on the biggest of stages and things of that sort. So that's why it's just a shame to see. Even Dak. I mean, Dak is Dak, but I would still like to not see him. I would at least like to see him surrounded with some sort of talent. At least let me watch him fail, and I can say he failed with talent around him. Now, if he fails, I can just say, well, hey, he didn't have a team with him. I don't know what I expect from him.
Right. So it's just like, well, lady, what are you doing? You didn't even attempt? What you mean you didn't attempt? I'm sure Derrick Henry, for the way it sounded, Derrick Henry would be open to going there. He sounded like he would have been open to going there. So why? Like, this is a perfect example of the Ravens lost so many players, right? They lost the biggest of which being Patrick Queen. But they kind of circumvented that by saying, okay, how about we're going to go out and get Derrick Henry. So we lost one of the best linebackers in the league, but then we just got picked up on one of the best running backs, you know? So it's at least they are trying to curb some of the damage of having so many free agents. That's what you're supposed to do. It's not like they just sat back and said and did nothing. One of the biggest things that is one of my biggest icks in sports is like running it back. I hate it so much because it does not work. It usually does not work. You know, it's very, very, very rare.
Especially if you're in no position to run it back.
Such. Go ahead.
Especially if you're in no position to run it back. Like, it's one thing to run it back from the Super Bowl. Yeah, it's one thing to run it back and you like you said with the 49ers, they were a couple plays away from winning the Super Bowl. You can run it back with that. But when you're talking about a team that got knocked out by a 7 seed in the first round, what makes you think that that's the team to run it back with? And like we said, they didn't even run it back; they got worse. So what do you expect from that?
One of my biggest pet peeves, even that 2022 Hawk season really like did it for me. I mean, we made that Cinderella run to the conference finals. We beat the Bucks. Trae Young gets that bone spur in his foot, and that was just the writing on the wall. And then we said, all right, let's run it back the next year. And we have never been the same since. So it's very irritating. And then now, like you said, you're actively regressing. Just dumb Cowboys. But, what's new from America's team? What's new? This is what we're used to. They've been like this for the last 26 years. So, like I said, what's new? I'm not complaining. It's just very interesting that this was a recent development in the offseason that you didn't even try to convince one of the best running backs in the league to come over. I don't care how old he is. Derrick Henry is a mammoth of a man. He takes great care of his body. I'm sure he can still put up, even if it's not no 2,000-yard season, he can still put up 1,400 plus. Easy.
Especially they lost Tyron Smith, but they still have a very good, solid O-line. Zach Martin in them. Mm-hmm. So it's hilarious. It's hilarious. Funniest team, very funny team, and it's gonna be even funnier watching them
fail.
Yeah, Man, and I can't even say 7th seed, man. It's gonna be funny watching them miss the playoffs.
Yeah. And we're going to see the Cowboys fans come out. They're going to win the first 2 games. They're going to beat the Commanders and the Patriots, and they're going to say, this is our year. This is our year to win the Super Bowl. That's what they're going to do. That's what they always do. Didn't they start off like 7-0 last year or something? Didn't they start off
Not
very
that
strong?
strong. They started off strong, but not 7-0. That was the Eagles started off like 7.
Okay, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking about the Eagles. Okay.
But yeah, it's gonna be hilarious to see. It's gonna be hilarious.
It is. But with that, man, I think we're gonna wrap up this episode. This episode will be going out later today, April 10th, probably around 12 o'clock ish, maybe 1 at the latest. I enjoyed this episode. We talked about WrestleMania. We talked about the men's and women's NCAA championships. We talked about the pitching injuries in the MLB, what can be done to circumvent it, what is happening right now in the MLB. We also talked about the Basketball Hall of Fame, the newest inductees, and why we believe that there should be an NBA Hall of Fame as well as the Basketball Hall of Fame. And then finally, we wrapped it up talking about how the Cowboys are doing jack squat and are actively losing members of their team and getting worse as the days go by. This has been episode 53 of Hear Me Roar. My name is the Tony Hope. That is Noble Lewis. We are Hear Me Roar. Like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. Share it with your folks. Follow us on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Spotify. Let us know what we can do better on. Follow us on social media. It's on the screen. And with that, we are out of here.